Very good evening, everyone. We are here with yet another session, and this session is is there for us, and this will be talking about the COVID. The COVID. What is COVID? What the factors which is affecting COVID? What are the different epidemiological factors, pharmacological factors, the treatment methodologies, and this series of talk will not complete in one session. It will go for one more session. So I hope you will connect for another session too. So I'll introduce today's speaker. Today's speaker who's my junior to me and who is very good in studies. So I'll introduce Varshini, and she's 2018 batch of BNYs from the School of Yoga and Naturopathic Medicine, SVASA, Bangalore. I welcome you, Varshini, on this platform OYG, and hope this session, what you are doing, will be useful for everyone. Thank you, Varshini.
Thank you. Warm greetings to everyone. We will start with the COVID-19 presentation today. Um, yes. So as we see, this COVID-19 has been pandemic, and first of all, we start with the uh, pathogenic agent, that is coronavirus, where corona actually means the crown in Latin. So if we see how corona evolved, we can see that it comes from the SARS. The background is from the SARS, then MERS, and then comes the SARS-CoV-2 that has been named as COVID-19 because this was seen in 2019. So when we see the SARS, which was mutated, which the origin was bad, as all know, this was actually the reservoir for this virus. So where bat can be seen as a animal reservoir for all these three viruses, where in SARS it was from a bat, then it went to, and then it mutated to a human contagion agent, and then in MERS it was like from a bat it evolved to a reptile, and then it infect humans, and we can see the same pattern will follow with the COVID also. Whereas if we see the fatality about these viruses, where in SARS and MERS, compared to COVID, it is increased. And we can see in COVID also, it is like 2.7, where if we consider all the asymptomatic also, it would actually even more decrease. So we can see that COVID has a lesser fatality, but it has a higher spreadability. Going to the next slide. So as I was saying about how COVID was evolved, we can see that the timelines, whereas SARS, we can see it in 2002, and MERS, we can see in 2012, and SARS-CoV-2 that came in 2019. So these has a timeline of 10 years. And going to the next slide about the epidemiology. Yes. So we can see that in epidemiology, usually we start with when, where, and how. So if we see when, it was in 2019 December, and where in the China and Wuhan, and how. This was this is said that it is linked with the wholesale market in Wuhan, where they sell seafoods. So they have said that the virus from the bat is mutated to the sea animals, where the seafood or the sea creatures were the virus reservoir for COVID, and has China is very populated with the working class. So this is like their cheap and uh, protein rich source for them, and hence it was like marketplaces are usually very crowded too, and with a lack of hygiene and all these factors, if we consider, it just became a widespread. And we can see that there was outbreak of pneumonia in China that occurred, And from there, it was reported that this is the origin for the COVID. And in transmission, if we see transmission, we see there are various pathways. So here we are considering two. One is respiratory, and other one is fecal-oral route. Where in respiratory, we can say it is through a droplet infection. And from the droplet, it becomes a surface to surface. So the droplets will stay on the surface. And when we contact the same surface, it will come inoculate us. So through these various pathways. But whereas airborne is not been confirmed, and as this is a respiratory infection, um, the connection to this and fecal-oral route transmission is very unclear. Going to the next slide, we can see the geographic distribution, where it was started with the Wuhan, then the Thailand, and then we can see that Italy, where Italy was really very this had a very big what can I say? It had a very big effect on Italy, because though it was very advanced with their treatments and hospitalization, but it couldn't sustain it. It had a high number of cases and deaths. And from people who migrated from these kind of cases, then it went on to all the countries like US, India, and everywhere. When we see the main events that occurred in India was, the first case was reported in Jan 30, and then March 12 was the first that was being reported. Well, when we see the incubation period of this virus, it can lie from 4 to 14 days. And moreover, it can be asymptomatic. So this can be, again, sometimes can be a 21 days incubation period. Going to the next slide. Period of infectivity. What do I mean by this? This is like a time range for virus in different levels. So first we can see through fecal-oral route, in that the virus will be shed in the stools. It can remain for 4 weeks. And when we see in droplet, in droplets, it can travel from 3 to 6 feet, and it can stay up to 24 hours. So on the surfaces, it comes in contact, it stays for 24 hours. And then in airborne, it can be like for 3 hours. In clinical features, there are 3 types of cases. One is the mild, and this severe and critical. So majorly we see mild cases occurring where it has flu-like symptoms, and there can be pneumonia or a mild pneumonia. Flu-like symptoms, I mean like common cold, fever, cough. And whereas in severe, we can see shortness of breath, and there will be like oxygen saturation lower than 93%. And then heart rate increases, and then there'll be lung infiltration of the virus more than 50% within 24 to 48 hours. Whereas 5% is the critical cases. These are the cases that leads to fatal. So these can be like respiratory failure, septic shock, or multi-organ failure. This can be seen when we take up investigation in different profiles like liver profile, kidney profile. Will come across if there is any multi-organ failure occurring or not. Going to the next slide. Series interval. Series interval and reproductive ratio of the virus is the main factor that COVID is a pandemic. Because reproductive ratio of the virus, this is the factor that is like at what range the virus multiplies. And the faster it multiplies, the faster it spreads. So there is an increased spreadability. And a series of interval. So what do I mean by series of interval is symptom of onset of patient 1 and symptom of onset of patient 2. In the series of like this, we can see the patient index where his symptoms occurs, and patient 1 where the symptoms occur. So we can see a time gap between the patient 1 and index patient. So this time gap, as it gets shorter, it can spread more. This is series interval is the main reason there is increased spreadability. And because of the reproductive ratio of the virus, it is very important that we take the preventive measures like washing our hands, social distancing, and then isolation, quarantines are very much required. Going to the next slide is the pathogenesis of COVID-19. So here, coronavirus is actually a single-stranded RNA virus. So this is like, it comes through our body, it inoculates anyways, like airborne droplet or whatever, it goes through our um, respiratory pathway. So as it goes through our respiratory pathway, it's the final destination is alveoli. So in alveoli, we can see there are two types of cells, that is type 1 pneumocyte, type 2 pneumocytes. So here, where does the virus attaches is on the type 2 pneumocyte on angiotensin converting enzyme 2, where the S-spike protein is the uh, part of the virus which okay, which wait, what is it? Yeah, which attaches to the our body. And here we can see that S-spike protein has a lot of variants. This changes with all the variants as we go on. Whereas we see that this single-stranded RNA. So this has two ways where one it get into polymerization using RNA-dependent RNA polymerase, and this can inbuild the virus population within, and this can be a latent. So it can come out when our immune system is low and take on the body. And whereas there is another mechanism where it goes into translation, the very single strand will go into translation. The single strand will be translated to specific proteins. So these proteins, these polyproteins will again be converted into inflammatory mediators, which is like the cytokine. And the cytokine actually releases interleukin 1, interleukin 6, TNF alpha, that is tumor necrosis factor alpha, and then neutrophils. So these are, each mediator has its own job. So where when we see these mediators act on the alveoli, where it increases the permeability, the capillary permeability, and vasodilation occurs. This is nothing but inflammatory response, basic inflammatory response that is occurring in the alveoli tissue, where this endothelium will also increase. And here what happens is the pulmonary edema. The pulmonary edema will again lead to two things, that is hypoxemia or ARDS, that is acute respiratory distress syndrome. So how is this occurring? Because when the edema occurs, this will actually lead to decreased surfactant. The decreased surfactant will actually lead to the increased surface tension. The tension is actually directly proportional to the pressure. So here, when the tension increases, even the pressure increases. So in lungs, the pressure is collapsing pressure, we call it. So when this pressure increases, our respiratory system collapse. So therefore, this hypoxemia and ARDS will occur, where this is one of the reasons where we have shortness of breath and difficulty in breathing, and all this occurs. And going to the next slide, we can see signs and symptoms. Yes, COVID has flu-like symptoms, and it resembles influenza sometimes. So there are three symptoms that is called the primary symptoms, that is the fever, cough, and dyspnea, that is the shortness of the breath. So why does a fever occur? How is this occurring? So as I said, cytokines release interleukin 1 and interleukin 6. This interleukin 1 and 6 get into the central nervous system, where it reaches to the hypothalamus in the thermostat, where this influences the thermostat to release prostaglandin. Prostaglandin is actually the agent which increases the core temperature. So when there is an increase of core temperature, this is called as fever. So here we see fever and then cough. Okay, here when we talk about the cough, we can justify why is it droplet infection, because where the cough is occurring because of the consolidation of the alveoli with the accumulation of the debris, debris of the virus and macrophages and neutrophils, that all has a mixture, will get into the mucus that we cough out. So when you're coughing out, you'll be coughing out the virus that's been shedded in the lungs. And then dyspnea. The major reason for dyspnea is the neutrophils. Neutrophils actually uh, attacks the nucleus that's present in the cytoplasm of the angiotensin uh, converting enzyme 2, where it will also attack on the pneumocyte type 1 and type 2 cells also. That will lead for the dysfunction in the exchange of gases, and then even in the production of the surfactant. So when there is exchange difficulty in exchange of gases and surfactant, it will decrease the production of the surfactant, that will lead to the increase of tension, that is leading to the collapse of the lungs. Now going to the next slide. Going to the next slide. Here we see that here we see like, why is it a pandemic? So well, I mean, it's been announced as a pandemic. That is actually because the spreadability, as I told before, this increase of spreadability, where it was very quick, the faster it spreads, the wider it got. And hence we can see that pandemic in the current status, how it can affect not just physical health, but also it has been a restraint on a mental capacity and emotional uh, feelings, emotions, and economically also it has been a huge damage. Why mentally? Because, and emotionally, because of the isolation and quarantine that we get into because of the preventive measure for the COVID, so that this won't be passed on to the next person or like this. Here we can see that it has been a challenge, not just physically, but also mental and emotional status. Going to the next slide. Next, the diagnosis. Yes. So when we are diagnosing a person who has been infected with the, if infected with the coronavirus, is first we take the travel history and try to trace with people they have come across and contacts that they have come across. And then we see CBC. CBC is nothing but a complete blood count. So when I was saying the pathogenesis of this, so we there was a significant increase of neutrophils. So in CBC, what happens is we can see there is leukopenia and lymphocytopenia. That is nothing but a decrease in WBC cells and lymphocyte cells. These are the major defense system in the body. So these will be decreased during if the person is infected with the COVID. And then we can see other blood tests, like we can see C-reactive protein being increased, as it is like it has been released by the liver. And then we can see the inflammation of the lungs can lead to inflammatory response syndrome. So there is a systemic effect on the whole body due to the inflammation in the lungs. That is because of the vasodilation and peripheral pressure where it is decreased. This can lead to a systemic shock. And then when there is like restricted blood flow in different organs, we can come across that there will be a decreased perfusion in kidneys. That will actually lead to the very significant increase in creatinine and bilirubin. And this can be investigated in kidney profile. And then in liver, we can see that the inflammatory enzymes like AST, ALT can be increased. And then there will be a bilirubin increase, which is commonly we come across. We see bilirubin increasing in where there is a jaundice occurred, but even in COVID, we can see a significant bilirubin increase. And then we can also see there will be a CRP increase when we take liver profile. And then LDH will be, we check LDH for if there is any cell damage that is occurred in the alveoli. So when there is increased cell damage that is occurred, because of the cell death, there will be release of LDH. And that will give a diagnosis if there is any significant damage in the lungs. And then the presence of PCT. PCT is actually referred for in case if any super infection that is going to occur. So super infection is nothing but any bacterial infection accompanying with the COVID or vice versa. And then so in conclusion, when we take hematology with COVID, there will be a elevation of the CRP and ESR, that is the sedimentation rate of the RBCs. And then we can see there will be an increase of LDH, and then there will be when there will be a fibrinogen increase. So we go for a D-dimer test. It is very why this occurs with what is the connection between COVID and blood clots is very much unclear. Hence, people are given blood thinners when we see any increase of D-dimers or the fibrinogen in the system more than 1,300 units as such. And yeah, ferritin is also for temporarily it will be increased. All this occurs due to the inflammatory response that occurs in our system. Going to the next slide. Here we can see the CT scans and X-rays. In X-rays, we can see there is a ground glass capacity. So here, and even in CT, we see a ground glass capacity with consolidation that is indicating pneumonia, and there will be a crazy paving pattern. And also in ultrasounds, we can take even ultrasounds of the lungs, and there will be thickening of the pleura that is indicated by the increased B lines and consolidation with the bronchograms. And there are also various tests we will come across like RT-PCR, real-time PCR, and for something. Yeah. Okay. Going to the next slide, we can see the prominent X-rays that's been taken in the chest X-rays in COVID patients, how the ground glass capacity and consolidations can be seen in the X-rays. And going to the next slide is the prevention. How is prevention taken in various places? So when we see in hospitals, we can see in the next slide, we can see that there is PPE kit given for the health workers. So in the next slide, we see that there will be a uh, different protections given uh, for the whole body, where we see a face shield, goggles, and mask, where they use triple mask, and there is a gown, and they wear boots, gloves, just not one gloves, but they wear two gloves, and this keeps them from like a prevention from like all the regions, like in the hospitals near the patient and all these things. And then going to the next slide, we can see we can see that the preventive measures a common person can take, like us. So regular washing of hands and social distancing of 6 feet, and isolation or quarantine, and mask, especially the mask, so that we don't give and take, and regular washing of the mask. And as a common people, we can follow double masking, where you wear a cloth mask and a surgical mask. And yeah, these are the measures that we can take. Moving on to the next slide. Yes, here we can see the variants of the virus. So um, the basic structure remains the same, but there will be different strands that's been mutated with the time. So major mutation that we see is in cases of spreadability. So it has been mutated to increase spreading or faster. So the WHO actually made the variants into Greek letters. Before it was referred with numbers. To remove the stigma, this has been, excuse me, replaced with the Greek letters. So alpha, that was seen in UK. The strand was seen in UK in September 2020. And then we can see in our country that is we see is the Delta strain that was seen in October 2020. So there is a they say that alpha and beta are more likely the same, but whereas beta is more contagious than the alpha. And then in India, the Delta strain has almost three different variants of it. And then we can see the rest of the strains like beta, gamma, epsilon, zeta, ETA. ETA is like in the multiple countries that occurred at the same time. That was December 2020. Going on to the next slide. The next slide is all about the vaccines. So we can see there are different vaccines that's been given. The next slide. The next slide. Hello. Yes. When we say about preventive measures, vaccines are very much important in this. Not just so like isolation, quarantine, all these are not enough. When we quarantine even for 14 days, we still shed viruses around us. But we can't just let this happen, right? So the vaccines are being produced. So the vaccines are actually, we usually come across the authentic way of vaccines are like the inactivated viruses that's been inoculated in us, and then our body will respond to it, and the memory T cell will have the memory of the virus. And then in case if we come across the real virus in the real world, So the body will be ready to fight it. So when we see vaccines, different countries have given different vaccines, whereas we can see there is an improvement in the technology of producing vaccines. So in the next slide, we see that there are like different countries giving different vaccines. Here we can see that Pfizer and BioNTech, they as a collaboration had made a vaccine that was actually mRNA. So this is like nucleoside modified mRNA. So this has been inoculated, and here we don't use any kind of inactive viruses. So here we just go with the code that is there on the virus, and this will get into the system, and our antibodies will take on it. So here we can see that there are two shots given with 3 weeks apart, and efficacy. Efficacy is actually, it means that how it's more or less like efficiency against the virus. And then we can see that it was given by USA, that was the Pfizer's, and BioNTech was from the German. So USA and German had collabed to give the vaccine. And next one we see, that is the Moderna. This is also a mRNA virus that is given 2 shots with the 4 weeks apart, and its efficacy is around 90 to 94%. And this is USA alone that produced. And Johnson and Johnson is a viral vector where they use a modified adenovirus in this case, and there is only a single shot given, and its efficacy is around 70 to 85%. And this was a collaboration with USA and Belgium. And then we can see the COVID shield. The COVID shield that was been using in our country, it is actually a viral vector. This is actually a modified chimpanzee's adenovirus, where there is 2 shots given with 8 weeks apart with 70 to 90% efficacy. And this is actually given by United Kingdoms and Sweden. And Sputnik V is a viral vector that is actually a modified human adenovirus. And here they give 2 shots with 2 to 13 weeks apart with 85 to 90% efficacy. It is made in Russia. And then we can see CoronaVac, that is actually an inactivated virus that is given 2 shots with 2 months apart with having 67 to 75% of efficacy, that is made in China. And then Novax, that was also that this is actually a protein based, where they give 2 shots, and this is having efficacy around 85 to 89%. This is given by US. And Covaxin, that is actually made in India and is used also in our country. That is actually an inactivated virus where 2 shots are given with 70 to 80% efficacy. So when we are taking a vaccine, make sure that we consult a doctor, whoever are having comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, and people on blood thinners. They have to check with their medical history and go with the vaccines. And going to the next slide. In the next slide, we see why prevention is required. So as I told, from PPE kit and hand wash, quarantine, isolation, mask, and vaccines, all these are nothing but preventive measure that we are taking against the infections that is around us. So why is it required? So not just taking a physical factor, here we can see that cases without protection measures and cases with protection measures, and there is the capacity, the human care system capacity. So it's just not that it's just not um, just a minute. yeah, the so prevention, not just like physical factor. Here we can see the economic factor and the availability of hospitals and beds. So when we are taking our preventive measures, so there won't be a requirement for going for hospitals and waiting for the beds. So when we take our preventive measures, we can also have any mild symptoms occurring, we can actually do a house isolation of 14 days or quarantine ourselves for 14 or further days till we take up the test and test comes negative. And we can see in the next slide, that is the pharmacological factor related to COVID-19. Here we give there is administration of different drugs of different classification. So first we see the ivermectin. So um, the next slide we can see about the ivermectin. The ivermectin is actually an antiviral drug. This is not very specific, but it is like usually any viral infections we come across, ivermectin is given. And here this has two mechanisms, one related to GABA, another related to ACE2. So when we see this mechanism 2 related to ACE2, this is actually like you have to make sure or get a cross check with your doctors who are having hypertension to take ivermectin or some other drug, because this can intertwine with the mechanism that has been um, that has been occurring with the hypertensive drugs, which actually go on ACE2. And its adverse effects are also like there'll be appetite, loss of appetite, dizziness. So usually in common we can say that this will actually decreases the body strength for temporarily, and there will be like abdominal pain and dizziness and as such. And going to the next drug, fairy favipiravir. So this is actually a drug on a protocol it has been taken. So this is like very efficient against the coronavirus. It is told that that around uh, six around 6 tablets given in a day for a person who is having mild infections. So they actually give higher dosages for straight 2 days of this drug, and this is actually better than ivermectin, to be honest. And this is like further, it is actually a course of 1 week where the first 2 days will be like us we give around 2400 mg, and then decreasing it to 800 mg for the rest of the days. So here its adverse effects is nothing but there'll be increased urination, and urea levels will actually increase. And this is actually not given for pregnant women, because it has a bad effect on the fetus in the body. And going to the next drug, this is azithromycin. This is a antibiotic. So when we see the first two drugs were antiviral, so antiviral drugs make sense. Yes, because it's a virus, so we are giving an antivirus. So here it makes sense. So why are we giving an antibiotic? This is when we go back to the hematology, we see that there is leukopenia and lymphocytopenia. This is actually the WBC and lymphocytes are decreased in the body. which denotes that our defense is being restricted. So when there is a condition like this, our immune system is on constraint. So there can be not just azithromycin. So this is an antibiotic. So as we saw in the previous, we were giving these two were antiviral drugs. So why we are taking the antibiotic? That is the reason. This is because our defense system is compromised. In this case, there is not just a viral infection that can occur. There can be any bacterial infection that can occur. There can be like any parasitic infection, a fungal infection, or any kind of infection that can occur under this circumstance. So here we see azithromycin is given. It is like this actually prevents from all kind of bacteria and parasitic infections, and this is accompanied with an antiviral drug. And if the patient is not showing any kind of fever, in the mild symptoms, if the person is not showing any kind of fever, if it is just cough and sinusitis, headache kind of things, they actually recommend azithromycin. And its adverse effect, we can see there will be a stomach of upset, diarrhea, and nauseousness, vomiting, and sometimes there is like 500 mg of azithromycin is given. So when we take these kind of doses, there is a very nauseous feeling, and we lose appetite, and there will be like very discomfort um, mm, with the food, and even they can face even fatigue when they are taking these drugs. And the next drug is doxycycline. Even this is antibiotic, but this is a in the next slide we can see doxycycline. Yeah. In this we can see that it is a tetracycline antibiotic. So here this is actually like this has a broad spectrum of all bacteria of gram positive, gram negative, and this has adverse effects of uh, swelling of the tongue, and there is like ulcers that can happen, and rashes that can occur, headaches, and these are the prominent adverse effects that occurs. And this is like contraindicated to autoimmune diseases, anything like myasthenia gravis or lupus, or all these kind of autoimmune diseases. They should it is not doxycycline is not recommended, so they can go with azithromycin. And then we can see salbutamol in the next slide. So here, this is actually a bronchodilator. So this is given for okay. This is salbutamol. This drug is actually given for here. This drug is a bronchodilator. This is actually given in case of any congestions that is occurred in the bronchus. This will help in relieving that. And this is actually given in patients like asthma, bronchitis, and all these things, where they have excessive mucus production. So even in COVID, as it's a respiratory infection, there can be increased mucus accumulation occurring. So this will actually help in relieving this distress. And usually salbutamol is given in the nights, so the person can sleep with a good respiration, And its adverse effects we can see like vomiting, dyspnea, and dry mouth, and etc. And this can also give tachycardia. So this can be like this can people with increased heart rate and anything related to uh, cardiac issues can actually mean they should refer with their doctors. And then we see the next drug, dexamethasone. This is actually a steroid drug. This is given in IV. Actually, this is actually given in a very critical stages, like when the person is in like ventilation and has such, and has already a steroidal drug. This is contraindicated to diabetes patients and people with like very old, like under a circumstance where their immune system is already compromised. This drug is actually contraindicated because this can further suppress the immune system, and on this there is a higher chances of different infections that can occur at that time. So the side effects of this is the upset stomach, stomach irritation, vomiting, headache, dizziness, and etc. And in the next slide we see the protocol that is given in mild, severe, and critical uh, cases. So in mild, we actually go with the tablets like antiviral or antibiotics, and this will keep the infection in control and make sure there is no other infection that's going to occur and make a complication. Whereas in severe, we can see that there will be like what is it? Favipiravir. This can be given with the high dosages when the person is having a severe symptoms, and in critical when they are in almost respiratory dysfunction and multi-organ failures that has been occurring. So for them, they go with the steroidal drugs to keep down the inflammations and all these. So here we finish the pharmacology of COVID. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Varshini. It was a very great talk in terms of knowledge, in terms of perception as a student, what you completed in just 40 minutes as a third year student, what we see. If I talk about a senior doctor, what they explain in multiple platform, what they do, you have done more than that. So I am very grateful to have you in our platform, but I still say that half of the part is still remaining. So do connect with us. Do wait for the second talk, which will come soon, and we will have both the soon. We will complete this COVID talk in a very different manner to understand how a naturopathy and yoga is helping many people in this COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you so much, Varshini.
Thank you for the opportunity.